Troy Landry's life was dramatically altered with an anonymous phone call in September 2024. A covert sting operation was started by wildlife officers. The hunting community was astonished by what they found after 6 hours of observation. The Swamp King was apprehended flagrantly violating the rules he had spent years instilling in others. However, that was only the start. A family tragedy, a cancer diagnosis, and bones found in the dirt that have the power to change history. You will be rendered speechless by the reality of Troy's recent troubles. On June 9, 1960, Troy Landry was born in Pierre Park, Louisiana. There was more to his birth than a typical small-town day. It meant carrying on a family tradition connected to the Atchafalaya Basin's untamed marshes, water and dense cypress forests around Pierre Park. Living there wasn't easy. To survive, humans had to adapt to the harsh conditions of nature. Myrtle and Duffy, Troy's parents, weren't your typical village residents. They belonged to a family that was renowned for knowing how to navigate the perils of the marsh. With an area of more than 1.4 million acres, the Atchafalaya Basin is the biggest river swamp in the U.S. People were put to the test here by poisonous snakes, alligators, and floods. Troy was raised in an era when contemporary conveniences were uncommon. Many houses lacked paved roads and power. Troy's life was molded from birth by the hardships of the marsh and his family's fortitude. Troy was descended from hunters for 5 generations. One of the earliest people to earn a living in the wetlands was his great-great-grandfather. He worked as a lumberjack, collected moss, captured animals, and hunted crocodiles. The marsh was hazardous, but it also offered food and revenue. The family worked hard to get their extensive understanding of the land, weather, and animal habits. The Landrys were well known in the area for their prowess in alligator hunting by the time Troy was born. They put in long hours and took many risks each year during the 30-day alligator season. As many gators as they could tag and capture was their aim. It was well known that the Landry would bring in enormous alligators, some of which were more than 12 feet long. There were rumors that they used only rope and willpower to defeat gators. Troy was burdened by this practice from an early age. He had to honor it, he knew. Troy had to overcome another obstacle. He had a partial hearing loss from birth. He learnt to live in a world where swamp sounds were difficult to hear as a youngster and wore hearing aids. By adulthood, his left ear could only hear 20% of what he heard, and his right ear was deaf. In an environment where hearing was important, this may have been dangerous, but Troy discovered new ways to live. He concentrated on keen vision and vibrations. The slightest movement in the foliage or wave on the lake caught his attention. These abilities turned become his strong suit. He became one of the greatest hunters in the world because of what might have prevented him. When Troy was 12 years old, he began hunting. He learned everything from his father, Duffy. This was no joke. The work was serious. Troy gained knowledge about reading animal tracks, checking traps, and catching catfish. He learnt the dangers of the work, assisted with bait, and tied knots strong enough for a gator during his first alligator hunt. By the time he was a teenager, he was regarded as a proficient hunter who could manage the perils of the marsh. These early encounters influenced his personality and methods of operation. Troy was not the only resident of Pierre Park. During the 1960s and 1970s, the community was close-knit Sinjin. Individuals assisted one another. They exchanged culinary customs and tales. Crawfish boils and the Fleet's blessing were significant occasions. Everyday life included the use of the Sinjin language, music, and cuisine. Troy's parents were admired for their generosity and encouragement. Troy learned the value of commitment, diligence, and humility in this setting. Troy expanded beyond hunting as he got older. He concentrated on crawfish after gator season. His crawfish company grew to be among Louisiana's largest. He collaborated with nearby farms and fishermen to supply crawfish throughout the state every year, beginning in late November. Troy's business contributed significantly to Louisiana's production of more than 90% of the crawfish consumed in the United States. His team processed thousands of pounds a week during the busiest time of year. Every boil became an event at his seafood shack, which attracted large people and offered traditional Cajun fare. On State Highway 70, Troy also inaugurated the Duffy Shell Station. He gave it his father's name. It developed into more than just a gas station. Both residents and tourists congregated there. They came seeking stories, bait, and gasoline. Photographs documenting the Landry family's history were affixed to the walls. To experience the true Sinjin spirit, even admirers of swamp people come to the station today. Troy played a significant role in managing the alligator population. Thanks to diligent hunting and conservation efforts, Alligators in Louisiana almost became extinct a few years ago. Although their numbers improved, it was still difficult to maintain the equilibrium. Troy managed the population using both contemporary tools and traditional family traditions. While preserving those required for reproduction, he eliminated troublesome gators. He helped keep people and gators safe by filling hundreds of tags every season. Troy's record of catching 82 alligators in one day is among his most well-known achievements. Even seasoned hunters were astounded by this record. It demonstrated his ability, forethought, and fortitude. He gained his position on the Swamp People and the title of King of the Swamp as a result of that day. There was more to his accomplishment than just numbers. It demonstrated his strong bond with the land and the effort he put forth to meet the demands of hunting. Troy's 20-acre land was used to build a fleet of boats and equipment. He owned a minimum of 6 boats, each designed for a certain purpose. His equipment was made to withstand difficult conditions and large catches. He collaborated with his family to construct, repair, and enhance the necessary tools. Troy's team was able to fill their tags and maintain their ranking as one of the state's best hunting groups. Because to their preparedness, the events of September 26, 1981, profoundly altered Troy Landry's life. On that day, he married Bernita in a modest ceremony, tucked away in a bayou in Louisiana. It was a small wedding attended only by close friends and relatives. However, the cooperation that began that day lasted for more than 40 years. Troy had Bernita at his side through every hardship, first as a school teacher and then as a History Channel publicist. The initial years were difficult. They were having financial difficulties. However, their devotion and affection for one another remained unwavering. Troy became the king of the swamp, thanks to their link, and their family became powerful enough to be featured on national television. Troy and Bernita moved into a little trailer on a 3-acre plot of property in Pierre Park, following their wedding. For over 30 years they remained there. They could afford it, but it wasn't what they had hoped for. That trailer came to represent their arduous pursuit of a better life. Troy carefully saved each cypress plank he pulled from the swamp, anticipating the day when they might construct the house of their dreams. That small room was where they brought up their kids. Birthdays were celebrated there. There, they greeted their grandchildren. Despite being a modest house, it was rich in tradition and love. In that world, their sons were raised. Chase was born on February 22, 1990, and Jacob was born on December 27, 1983. Additionally, Troy became the stepfather of Brandon, Bernita's son. From the beginning, he treated Brandon like his own. From an early age, the boys were aware of the marsh. They learned how to hunt the local alligators, how to live there, and how to show respect for it. Despite just lasting 30 days annually, alligator preparation takes a full year. It wasn't only a trade that those lads learned. It was a lifestyle. Millions of people watched the swamp dwellers on television to witness their way of life in action. Troy and Bernita eventually constructed their ideal home after decades of saving and self-deprivation. They moved into their 1860-square-foot timber home on Mike Street just before Christmas 2011. Troy labored in the wetlands, and every bit of cypress in the home came from there. The house has no sheetrock. The pine ceiling and walls are flawlessly fitted. Troy even constructed the 12-foot cypress table where they eat. An enormous 30 by 34-foot family room in the mansion is embellished with an 11-ton alligator head and deer antlers. Antiques, keepsakes, old photographs, and family memories can be found in every room. It's more than just a house. It's the culmination of years of arduous labor and a goal realized. Troy hunted more than simply gators. He imparted all of his knowledge to his sons. They were in the swamp with him as soon as they could grasp a pole. He showed them how to track gators, set bait, and appreciate the risks involved in hunting. Hunting alligators is one of the riskiest occupations in the nation. However, Troy prepared his boys for any danger, so they were ready. When Troy was discovered by the History Channel in 2010, everything changed. The first episode of Swamp People aired on August 22, 2010. The audience was immediately captivated. In the swamp, they witnessed a real man going about his daily life. Troy wasn't lying. He was only being himself. He became a star because of that. A total of 3.1 million people watched the first episode. That figure increased to 3.9 million by the time the second season premiered on March 31, 2011. With 5.5 million viewers, the season 2 finale broke the previous record. At the time, it was the most watched episode in the channel's history. People were captivated by Troy's life and profession, and his narrative helped the show succeed. And Shoot 'em came next. Troy's St. John accent and his straightforward yell made him renowned. When it was time to make the shot, he initially shouted it to his sons and crew. Fans adored it. It quickly appeared on mugs, ringtones, hats, and shirts. It wasn't just a catchphrase, so Troy protected it with a trademark. He was a person because of that. When fans saw him, they would yell it, and it began to represent the swamp life Troy displayed to the globe. The ones who knew Troy the best gave him the moniker King of the Swamp. He got it by collecting 82 gators in a single day, long before television cameras were invented. No one knew the marsh like him. He commanded his team, educated his boys, and always respected the land. That moniker also gained national recognition when television broadcast his story. Troy Landry's life took an interesting turn in 2015. Savage Arms introduced the Landry Signature Series, a line of 3-bolt action rimfire rifles with gator themes. These firearms weren't your average ones. The renowned alligator hunting prowess of the Landry family served as their inspiration. Troy rose to fame on Shoot 'em Angry Swamp at the height of his television career. This arcade-style game was made available for Kindle, Android, and Apple devices. In a virtual swamp, players attempted to tag gators while wearing Troy's boots. Because Troy's voice, his striped clothing, and his well-known catchphrases were all present, the game had a realistic feel. It demonstrated the strength of Troy's brand and introduced the excitement of the bayou to a completely new audience. One of Troy's proudest accolades came in 2021. In the celebrity category, he received the Louisianian of the Year award. His accomplishment on TV wasn't the only reason for this honor. Troy was honored as a genuine representation of Cajun power and culture. He always remained loyal to his roots, having lived his entire life on the waters of the Atchafalaya Swamp. He continued to reside at Pierre Park, despite his wealth and celebrity. He taught young swampers the bayou ways while working with his family. No amount of strength could protect Troy Landry from the heartbreak he experienced in 2021. After a protracted, agonizing illness, the man fans knew as the fierce king of the swamp lost his loving mother. Troy wasn't the only one devastated by her death. The entire Landry family felt a profound void as a result. Through the turbulent and uncertain life of the bayou, she had served as their compass. The family felt lost without her. Troy made an effort to maintain his strength in order to maintain his reputation as the tough alligator hunter. However, beneath that facade, he was a grieving son. Support and affection were poured forth by fans, who viewed the Landrys as the epitome of family harmony. Everyone was reminded by the loss that grief has the power to bring even the strongest people to their knees. Troy was attempting to recover until 2022 dealt him another setback. It was his own health this time. When Troy disclosed that he had prostate cancer, his fans were taken aback. He didn't mince words. He spoke in plain, unvarnished terms. He had cancer in his prostate. The news came as a shock at age 61. For Troy and all those who appreciated his strength, his candor broke the taboo around prostate cancer. By encouraging many guys to talk about their personal health, the once invincible gator hunter suddenly appeared fragile, and his fight turned into a symbol of bravery. Troy wasted no time. He had his prostate removed during life-saving surgery. He informed followers of the result on June 2022. Although hearing the truth was difficult, the operation was successful. The cancer has spread to his entire prostate. It was difficult to recover. It was a significant surgery. The dangers are real. Troy, however, remained loyal to himself, expressing gratitude to his physicians and supporters while focusing on the next gator season. People's perceptions of cancer changed as a result of his candor about the struggle. The illness wasn't the only factor. It was about retaliating. Regardless of how difficult the journey was, the family faced another storm as Troy recovered. False stories began to circulate like wildfire in August 2022. Claims that Troy had passed away at the age of 62 were all over the internet. His fans were devastated, thinking he had died of cancer. His son Jacob had to step in and produce a video to verify his father was still alive, because the rumors were so strong. Always with a quip to lighten the mood, Troy made light of the situation. The incident demonstrated how quickly lies may proliferate and how upsetting they can be for families who are already dealing with a lot. Troy never lost focus in spite of everything. He only wanted to return to the swamp. He spent time with his grandson and prepared for the upcoming hunting season on his property. Just a few weeks after undergoing surgery, the man was adamant about doing what he loved, despite all that had happened to him. He demonstrated that no sickness could break his spirit when he returned for Swamp People Season 14. Another test followed, one that neither parents nor grandparents ever want to encounter. The Landry family welcomed baby Crew into the world on July 13, 2024, but happiness soon gave way to worry. Following 8 hours of labor, Shelley needed an emergency cesarean section. Crew was born gasping for air. He fought for every breath throughout his first 24 hours in the intensive care unit. The team quickly appeared to be safe, and the family remained strong. But the hospital stay revealed another issue. High amounts of direct bilirubin, an indication of liver problems, were found in his blood. A nightmare was beginning. Crew's bilirubin levels continued to rise in the weeks that followed. On August 23, 2024, doctors performed additional testing, including a painful cholangiogram. The family was devastated by the outcome. Biliaria, an uncommon and fatal liver illness that affects only roughly 1 in 20,000 neonates in the U.S., was present in the Crew. The sickness is invariably lethal if left untreated. The only hope, according to the Landry, was surgery. But even that might not be sufficient. The devastating fact of losing their newborn completely upended the family's lives. Crew had a limited chance of surviving after doctors conducted the difficult Kasai procedure. But the chances were not in his favor. Usually the procedure is most effective before the baby is 8 weeks old. The Crew had already passed that stage. It became evident after 3 months that the procedure had failed. His liver continued to deteriorate. Crew had reached end-stage liver illness by January 25 and was formally added to the transplant waiting list. His PL score quickly increased from 13 to 31. He had to endure a torturous wait every day for a donor who could save his life. The wait seemed to go on forever. A possible donor showed up in February 2025, but the liver wasn't compatible. The hope of the family was dashed. The call they had prayed for finally arrived in June 2025. A liver that matched was discovered. Texas Children's Hospital performed transplant surgery on the Crew. The procedure went well. Recovery was difficult and took a while. However, the family sensed optimism returning with each little step forward. In the meanwhile, none anticipated the uproar that was sparked by an anonymous phone call in September 2024. Someone reported alleged illegal activity on Lake Powell in St. Mary Parish to the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. According to the caller, only he and a friend were authorized to install gator lines there. However, during night, odd lines with white flags had emerged. It sounded like a serious claim. There was no time wasted by the department. An operation of stinging was initiated. It was no ordinary patrol. Agents meticulously planned every action because they knew they would be up against a seasoned hunter or perhaps a well-known person. The suggestion was too thorough to overlook. The scene was set, and what followed would surprise followers of one of the biggest personalities on reality TV, as well as the hunting community. At 6:30 a.m. on September 19, 2024, 2 agents, Harry Gaines and Jake Darden, took their posts. In order to observe the flagged lines covertly, they located a secret location. The lengthy wait was made more difficult by the heat and humidity. Time passed slowly. Then, at precisely 1:43 p.m., more than 6 hours later, they noticed a boat coming up to the ropes. Troy Landry, a 28-year-old lady whose identity was withheld, and a cameraman who appeared to be filming for swamp dwellers, were inside the boat. The agents kept a careful eye on things. The gator was a good one, the woman added, lifting a line. Troy reached for his spear. They killed the gator together and dragged it into the boat. The agents had been waiting for that time. They hurried in to face Troy and his group. Troy made an effort to clarify. He claimed to have authorization to hunt there. He was, in a sense, telling the truth. But the agents' analysis of his tags revealed inconsistencies. The area and the tags did not match. Hunters in Louisiana are required to use tags designed specifically for the area they are hunting. According to Troy, the law didn't care that someone had provided him the tags for this journey. He received 2 citations from the agents. One was for incorrectly tagging the gator. The other was that he should have tagged it, but he didn't. He may spend up to $120 days in jail and pay up to $950 for each charge. Troy initially maintained his innocence. However, he eventually acknowledged his actions when the agents revealed that they had been observing the entire time. Supporters were in disbelief because they had viewed him as the Swamp King. There were still surprises to come. Troy confessed to something worse when the agents questioned him further. He said that he had sliced off another dead gator from his rope and let it to float away before they got to him. It was more than just a rule violation. It was viewed as wasteful and disrespectful to the animals he was meant to be protecting. Later, the deceased gator was discovered by the agents. still bound to a line like Troy's other gators. Every gator is required by law to be tagged immediately. It is against the law to let one float away, and it upsets the delicate natural equilibrium. The man at the center of a case that demonstrated anything but prudent hunting was the one who had taught millions about it. Citations were not the end of the agent's work. Troy's engine and boat were confiscated. Little errors don't result in that. Boating is a serious offense that is often saved for the worst infractions, or repeat offenders. It was painful to watch Troy's renowned boat being dragged away. The fans were in awe of what they were witnessing. The entire incident brought up difficult issues. Did reality television promote drama, force even experienced hunters to violate the law? Did viewers believe what they saw on Swamp People? Or was the reality concealed by a well-executed act? But Troy's tale didn't stop there. No one could have predicted the find Troy and his partner Cheyenne Pickleheat made in 2025 while filming Swamp Mysteries. They were searching for remnants of a vanished Native American culture in the Louisiana swamp. Instead, they discovered human bones, sections of a leg, a shoulder blade, pieces of a cranium, and a white-toothed jawbone. Only 3 inches separated the remains from the muddy ground. Not even the on-site archaeologist believed it. Such things are frequently destroyed by the acidic soil of the swamp. The bones may be thousands of years old, according to experts. Troy was shaken by the moment. The discovery permanently altered the crew's perception of the marsh. Troy did not vanish despite the legal issues. He was present when Swamp People Season 16 premiered in January 2025. He had 2 new boats and 800 gator tags this time. He remained at the top because of his charisma and talent. The network viewed his infractions as a minor setback, despite the questions that surrounded him. Pickleweed was standing next to him as the fans continued to watch. Together, the two were now a formidable force. Both on and off camera, they had a close bond. They cooperated to support their community, hunted in new places, and took on greater risks. Their collaboration kept audiences interested, and their reverence for the bayou maintained the show's core.